Have you ever noticed how some people just seem to navigate life with a natural ease, almost like they're intrinsically, well, healthier?
Yeah, while others seem to struggle with well-being, despite their best efforts.
Exactly. For centuries, thinkers, from ancient philosophers right up to modern scientists, have pondered this link between our inner selves, our personality, and our health.
It's a fundamental question, really.
And today, we're going on a deep dive into precisely that connection. We're looking at a groundbreaking new meta-analysis, a massive study of studies
A huge one.
that explores how our fundamental personality traits, specifically through the lens of the HEXACO model, connect to our overall well-being.
And it's truly fascinating because, well, many of you might be familiar with the big five personality traits.
Right, the standard model most people know.
This new research shines a light on a more nuanced model, the HEXACO, and it reveals some pretty surprising insights into how our core disposition impacts our mental, behavioral, and even physical health. It really helps us understand not just what personality traits are linked to health, but often why they matter.
Okay, so let's unpack this then. Our mission for this deep dive is basically to extract the most important nuggets from this extensive research.
Mm-hmm.
We want to give you the shortcut, to being truly well-informed on this captivating topic.
Yeah, cut through the complexity.
Helping you understand how your own personality, or maybe that of people you know, might be influencing health outcomes.
Definitely.
So, to start, let's set the stage a bit. When we talk about health in this deep dive, we're using a broad definition, drawing from the World Health Organization.
Right, the WHO definition.
Yeah. A state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. So not just being sick.
Exactly. It's holistic.
And this study categorizes health into three main areas. First, you've got mental health. That covers emotional, cognitive, social well-being, stuff like depression, happiness, or diagnosed psychopathologies.
Your inner world, basically.
Then second, health behavior. This includes actions that promote health, like exercise or detract from it, like substance use or risky activities.
What people actually do.
And third, physical health. This refers to the body's actual condition, including fitness, diagnosed diseases, and even, well, mortality.
The state of the body itself. Okay.
So that's health.
Which naturally leads us to ask, what exactly do we mean by personality traits in this context?
Good question.
These are, relatively stable tendencies in how we think, feel, and act. And like you said, the most widely discussed model is the big five.
Openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, neuroticism.
Yep, the classics.
But this deep dive focuses on the HEXACO model, which really kind of expands on that. It introduces a sixth crucial dimension and refines some of the others. Gives us a more complete picture, maybe.
I think so, yeah. It adds some important nuances.
Okay, so first up is honesty, humility, H. This is a big differentiator from the big five, isn't it?
It really is. It's the H in HEXACO.
It describes being fair, genuine, modest, versus being greedy, pretentious, or, sly. Think about how someone's basic integrity might influence their life choices.
It's about sincerity versus manipulation in a way.
Then we have emotionality, E. Now, this is similar to Big Five neuroticism, but there are key differences.
Crucial differences for understanding the health links, definitely.
Right. It captures fearfulness, anxiety, dependence, but it lacks the irritability or anger bits of neuroticism.
Yeah, those aspects are actually captured elsewhere in the HEXACO model, which we'll get to.
Okay. Next is extraversion. X. This one's very similar to its Big Five counterpart, right? Active, cheerful, outgoing, sociable.
Pretty much, yeah. Very comparable.
The agreeableness, A, versus anger. Now, this is quite different from Big Five agreeableness.
Big difference here, yes.
This HEXACO version describes being gentle, forgiving, patient, but importantly, it includes that anger and irritability component that's usually in Big Five neuroticism.
Right.
While lacking the sentimentality and compassion you find in Big Five agreeableness. So different flavors.
Exactly. It carves up those emotional territories differently.
Then conscientiousness. C. This one's largely identical to the Big Five version. Organized, diligent, disciplined.
Yep. Very similar. The reliable, planful type.
And finally, openness to experience. Also largely identical, creative, intellectual, unconventional.
That's right. Similar concept to the Big Five's openness.
Okay.
So understanding these subtle but really crucial differences, particularly in honesty, humility, emotionality, and agreeableness, it's essential. Because they help us explain why HEXACO might predict health outcomes in distinct ways compared to the Big Five. It gives us potentially more precise understanding.
Got it. So when we pull back and look at the overall picture then, what does this massive meta-analysis, 276 studies, over 92,000 people, what does it tell us about personality and health writ large?
Well, the most significant finding, and this is consistent with previous research on the Big Five too,
Okay.
is that HEXACO personality domains show the strongest links to mental health outcomes. They explain a moderate amount of variance the study found, about 22.5%.
Wow, 22.5%.
Yeah.
That's a pretty significant chunk for mental health, nearly a quarter.
It is. It means nearly a quarter of what makes people differ in their mental well-being can be sort of reliably accounted for by their HEXACO personality trait.
Okay, so that's mental health. But how does it play out for our actions, our habits?
Relationships with health behaviors were somewhat weaker, still there, but weaker. Explained about 12.6% of the variance.
Okay, about 12, 13%.
And perhaps surprisingly, the connections to physical health outcomes were generally weak or even non-significant across the board. Explained only about 2.7% of the variance.
Only 2.7%. Huh. So it sounds like our personality has a much stronger hold on our internal state, our mind, and our habits
Yeah, our choices.
than it does on our actual, physical condition. Is that fair?
That's a great way to summarize it, I think. Now, we have to remember the study primarily relied on self-reports.
Right, the common method issue.
Right. Which is, standard in personality research, but it's a limitation. Still, these overall patterns seem quite clear.
Okay,
It suggests that personality traits, being psychological variables, logically show stronger relations with outcomes on that same level, like mental health.
makes sense.
But it's important to remember, though, that even small effects, like the ones for physical health, can still be practically relevant over a lifetime, Small differences add up.
That's a good point. Fascinating. Okay, now that we've seen the big picture, let's really zoom in. Let's uncover which specific HEXACO traits emerged as the sort of health champions and which might present more challenges.
Okay, let's do it. Well, conscientiousness truly stands out. It was the only HEXACO domain that significantly predicted all three health categories.
All three. Wow.
Yeah. Individuals high in conscientiousness tend to be organized, diligent, careful. They're the planners, the reliable ones. They make responsible decisions. They engage in health protective behaviors like, not smoking, using seatbelts, maybe scheduling regular checkups, sticking to treatments.
The ones who follow doctor's orders?
Pretty much. And this overall disciplined approach generally leads to greater success and better outcomes in life generally, which indirectly but clearly benefits health.
So being disciplined really pays off here. You mentioned it correlated positively with mental health, 0.28.
Yep.
Health behavior, 0.31, and even physical health, 0.10. Those seem like consistently positive links. As conscientiousness goes up, well-being tends to rise across the board.
That's exactly right. It certainly looks like a highly beneficial trait for health in this study.
Okay, what about extraversion?
Extraversion was the overall strongest predictor specifically of mental health. It showed a really robust 0.48 correlation.
0.48, that's high.
It is. Extroverted individuals are, confident, gregarious. They tend to have more social connections and more satisfying social relationships.
Right.
And that social connection piece powerfully influences outcomes like happiness, positive affect, life satisfaction.
But I recall you mentioning earlier it's a bit of a mixed bag for health behavior and not significant for physical health.
That's right, exactly. While extroverted individuals might engage more in social activities, these can be both healthy.
Like joining a sports team.
Yeah, or group fitness classes, that kind of thing. Or they can be unhealthy.
Like heavy drinking at parties.
Precisely. So these contrasting behaviors can often kind of cancel each other out when you look at the trait overall. That leads to those weaker links with health behavior, only 0.09.
Okay.
And pretty negligible links with physical health, 0.08.
Interesting. Okay, now for the HEXACO unique trait, honesty, humility. What does this particular dimension tell us about health?
Right, the age factor. Well, individuals high in honesty, humility are fair, honest, sincere. They are significantly less likely to engage in norm-violating or deviant behaviors.
Okay, so less rule-breaking.
Exactly. This trait shows strong negative correlations with health deteriorating behaviors. For example, aggression came in at meta 0.37. Also things like problem gambling, risky sexual behavior.
So avoiding the bad
It's
stuff.
kind of like a strong moral compass guiding them away from problematic choices, yeah. It's also significantly linked to better mental health, correlation of 0.19,
Okay.
but it showed no significant relationship with physical health in this analysis. And actually, the correlation with health behavior, 0.31, was stronger than with mental health.
Why do you think that is?
Well, it's likely because many of the behaviors captured here, avoiding aggression, risky gambling, things like that, have a pretty clear moral or ethical component, which ties directly into the definition of honesty, humility.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, emotionality. This one was particularly interesting because its relations with health categories even differed in direction. How does that work?
Yeah, this one's tricky but fascinating. Emotionality correlated negatively with mental health, net equal 0.18, and physical health, negative 0.14.
Which makes intuitive sense, right? It captures fearfulness, anxiety,
Mm.
not usually linked to feeling great.
Exactly. High emotionality often means more worry, more dependence, more anxiety. However, it correlated positively with health behavior.
0.10?
Positively? How?
Well, this positive link seems largely driven by a negative relation with risky, health-deteriorating behaviors.
Ah, okay, so less risk-taking again.
Right. For example, individuals high in emotionality were less likely to consume alcohol heavily, gamble, or engage in risky sexual practices, perhaps because they're more fearful or anxious about negative consequences.
So it's almost like their internal alarm bell is always ringing, protecting them from certain risks, even if it makes them feel a bit more anxious overall. An interesting trade-off.
That's a really good way to think about it, yeah.
It's not that they're actively seeking out more healthy things necessarily, but maybe doing less of the obviously unhealthy, risky things.
That seems to capture it well for the health behavior link, and it also highlights that key difference from Big Five neuroticism we mentioned earlier.
Because neuroticism has sometimes been shown to correlate positively with risky health behaviors, possibly because neuroticism includes those aspects of anger, impulsivity, or sadness that HEXACO's emotionality doesn't capture in the same way.
Got it. Okay, how does agreeableness versus anger, getting along with others, impact our health?
Well, high agreeableness in the HEXACO's sense, being gentle, forgiving, patient, correlates positively with mental health, 0.23, and health behavior, 0.25.
Okay, positive again.
But not physical health. That was
Ah.
basically 0.00. It's especially predictive of lower aggression. A strong correlation there, negative 0.53.
Makes sense, less anger.
Right. And this seems to foster better relationships, reduce conflicts, which in turn can significantly boost mental well-being and maybe encourage more positive social interactions that support health.
Okay. And finally, openness to experience.
Yeah.
What did the study find here? The creative, unconventional types.
Yeah, this trait was actually the weakest predictor of health overall in this meta-analysis. Yeah. It showed only weak correlations with mental health, 0.11, and health behavior, 0.08, and no significant link at all to physical health, 0.01.
Why do you think that is?
Well, while openness can certainly lead to, fulfilling experiences, intellectual growth, new ideas, it can also potentially lead to engagement in novel or even risky behaviors. Trying new things isn't always safe. So maybe those positive and negative potentials just cancel each other out in terms of the overall health impact measured here.
So it seems being creative and unconventional isn't directly tied to being physically or even mentally healthier, at least according to this big study.
Apparently not, based on these findings. The links are pretty minimal.
Wow, okay.
Now, all of this raises a crucial point, really, a practical question. If you're trying to predict someone's health outcomes, maybe in a clinical setting or for research, should you use the HEXACO model or the Big Five?
Right. Which one is better?
And this study really helps clarify that choice.
And what's particularly illuminating here, I think, is that the answer isn't a simple one is universally better. It's more nuanced.
Exactly right. It depends on what you're trying to predict. For some mental health outcomes, the HEXACO domains actually significantly outperformed the Big Five in predictive power.
Like what?
For example, HEXACO explained much more variance in things like borderline personality disorder, 62.7% versus 35.1% for the Big Five. That's a huge difference.
Wow.
Also for happiness, 31.7% assess 11.6%, mindfulness 37.7% assess 26.4%, and self-esteem 42.1% assess 31.0%.
So for those specific mental health aspects, HEXACO seems stronger.
It does, and for some health behaviors too. HEXACO was better at predicting aggression, 28.0%, 12.9%, and also exercising 9.3%, 2.0%.
Okay, but the Big Five still holds its own in other areas, right? It wasn't just worse across the board.
Absolutely not. The Big Five domains actually more often showed higher criterion-related validity overall. They had the edge in predicting other important outcomes.
Such as?
Like anger. Big Five explained 33.0% is only 3.0% for HEXACO. Loneliness, 21.7%, 14.3%. Negative affect generally, 33.3%, 20.8%. And substance use, 26.7%, 7.8%.
So Big Five seems better for capturing things like general negativity, anger, loneliness, and substance issues.
That's what this data suggests, yeah. And for many other outcomes, like, say, anxiety disorders or burnout, both models performed quite similarly. There wasn't a clear winner.
So what does this all mean for someone choosing a personality model in, say, health research or maybe even clinical practice?
It means the choice is really outcome dependent. You need to know your specific goal.
Tailor the tool to the job.
Precisely. If you want to predict aggression or self-esteem, HEXACO might offer more predictive utility based on the study, but if you're looking specifically at substance use or general negative affect, the Big Five might provide more robust insights.
Okay, and what about that unique honesty-humility trait? How much extra does it truly bring to the table in predicting health beyond what the Big Five already tells us?
That's the question of incremental validity. Does it add unique predictive power? And the answer is yes. It showed noteworthy incremental validity.
Okay.
Meaning it provides unique extra predictive power that the Big Five alone simply can't capture. But this was particularly true and almost exclusively true for some health behaviors.
Ah, behaviors again. Like which ones?
For example, it added 6.3% more explained variance for aggression and 3.1% for gambling, over and above what the Big Five could tell us.
So it helps understand those specific, risky, or antisocial behaviors better.
Exactly. But for mental and physical health outcomes, its incremental validity was much smaller, rarely exceeding 2%.
Okay, so not adding much there.
Right. This suggests honesty-humility's distinct value in the health context, at least based on this meta-analysis, is largely confined to understanding those health-deteriorating behaviors, especially ones with that moral or rule-following dimension.
That's really interesting.
And it's also fascinating that even HEXACO extraversion, despite seeming similar to Big Five extraversion, it actually showed incremental validity over Big Five extraversion for predicting many mental health and health behavior outcomes, too.
Even though they seem so similar.
Yeah. It suggests that maybe those subtle facet-level differences, the finer details within the broad trait, can actually make a big difference in what they predict downstream. Nuance matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, this has been a truly comprehensive deep dive, really fascinating stuff. But, no study, no matter how extensive, is perfect.
Never.
What are some of the limitations we should be aware of when we're interpreting these findings?
Yeah, that's crucial. A really critical point is the heavy reliance on self-reports for both personality and health measures across many of these individual studies.
Right, people reporting on themselves.
Exactly. And this can introduce something called common method variance or even item overlap.
What does that mean practically?
Well, think of it this way. If a personality questionnaire asks how cheerful you generally are, which relates to extroversion, and then a mental health questionnaire asks about your current life satisfaction, there's a pretty strong conceptual overlap, isn't there? Cheerful people tend to be more satisfied.
Yeah, they sound related.
So that overlap can sometimes artificially inflate the correlations we see, especially for mental health outcomes where the concepts are closely linked.
So the connection might look stronger than it actually is sometimes.
It's a possibility we have to consider, which, really begs the question. We need more research using objective health measures.
Like what?
Things like biomarkers, doctor diagnoses, hospital records, maybe even actual longevity data, rather than just relying solely on what people say about themselves.
Got it. More objective data points. So beyond the self-reports, what's next for this kind of research? Where does it go from here?
Well, another big point is that most studies included in this meta-analysis were cross-sectional.
Meaning they looked at personality and health at one specific point in time. Like a snapshot.
Exactly, just a snapshot. And that makes it really difficult to establish causality.
The chicken or the egg problem.
Precisely. Does your personality cause certain health outcomes? Or can major life events, maybe getting a serious illness, actually change your personality over time? We can't easily tell from a snapshot.
So we need.
Future longitudinal studies, studies that follow the same people over many years, measuring both personality and health repeatedly. Those are crucial to untangle this complex, likely two-way relationship.
That makes sense. What else?
Furthermore, this study mostly focused on individual health. But if we zoom out to the bigger picture, future research could explore how maybe the dominant personality traits of entire groups or even societies might influence public health outcomes.
Oh, interesting. Like what?
Well, maybe something like adherence to public health measures during a pandemic. Could societal levels of, say, conscientiousness or honesty, humility play a role? It's an open question.
Fascinating. And what about breaking down the traits themselves even further? You mentioned facets earlier.
Exactly. The study itself highlighted the need for more facet-level analysis. Sometimes different facets or subcomponents within a single broad personality domain can actually have opposing effects on an outcome.
So they cancel each other out.
Potentially, yeah, leading to what they call cancellation effects when you just look at the broad domain score. For example, maybe the fearfulness facet of emotionality strongly predicts anxiety and avoiding risks,
Okay.
while the dependence facet might not have the same impact or could even relate differently to certain social support behaviors. Looking at these finer details will definitely give us an even clearer, more nuanced picture of these connections in the future.
Lots more digging to do then.
Always in science.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener? We've taken a really deep dive into this fascinating world of how our core personality traits, viewed through that HEXACO lens, are intricately linked to our mental health, our behavioral choices, and even, although maybe to a lesser extent, our physical health.
Yeah, we've seen that some traits, like conscientiousness, seem universally beneficial for health.
The health role model.
Kind of. While others, like honesty, humility, offer really unique insights, particularly into those health-harming behaviors.
Right.
I think the key takeaway is that understanding your personality can actually be a powerful tool, a lens for understanding your own health journey, your tendencies, your strengths, maybe your potential challenges.
And it's not about finding a single best model, is it? A5 versus HEXACO.
No, not at all. It's more about appreciating the nuanced insights each model offers and maybe guiding us to tailor our understanding depending on the specific health outcome we're interested in.
Use the right tool for the right question.
Exactly.
So this really prompts a final thought for you to maybe mull over after this deep dive. How might a deeper understanding of your own HEXACO profile, maybe you look it up, maybe you just reflect on those traits. How might that understanding inform your approach to your own well-being? Could recognizing the links between your traits and your typical health behaviors empower you to make more informed choices?
Could it help you lean into your strengths, perhaps, or consciously manage potential challenges linked to your personality?
Maybe even unlocking new pathways to a healthier life just by having that self-awareness. Something for you to ponder long after this deep dive.